Nelson Mandela became the first democratically elected president in 1994. This was the official end of white minority rule, otherwise known as apartheid.
Apartheid is an African word that means separateness. It was a system of racial segregation that governed South Africa for nearly 50 years.
The purpose of this was to protect the domination of white South Africans over non-white South Africans.
But it didn't just appear out of thin air. During the colonial grab for the country between the Dutch, the centenary Afrikaners, and the British, the rights of native black South Africans were sidelined.
So when apartheid was officially made law in 1948 by the Afrikaner-led National Party, it was a continuation of injustices that already existed.
The black majority was therefore seen as a threat. There were 148 apartheid laws.
Blacks had to carry ID permits at all time and had to obey strict curfews. Other facilities were banned between whites and non-whites, and marriages between white and other races was banned.
People were classified into 4 different social classes: white, black, Indian, and other races.
And all these were separated into their own residential zones. Blacks were divided into 10 so-called residential zones.
Homelands were rural, overcrowded, and lacked jobs, forcing blacks to look for work as migrant laborers. Wages were low and it was illegal for workers to strike.
See, apartheid was also economically motivated. A cheap workforce was needed to particularly work in the country's gold mines.
Powerful mining magnates had a huge stake in apartheid policies, since their profits depended on keeping black wage laws. Outside of their designated homelands, non-whites had no rights. Since they weren't technically citizens, they didn't have the right to vote.
This document is called The Launch of the Boycott Movement, 1959. This is a document that recorded the accordion for British companies to do a boycott against South African products.
This is a document taken out from 1959. It includes speakers such as Julius Nyerere, leader of Tanzania and the president of the Tanganyika Legislative Council.
It has a recollection of a whole bunch of other speakers at this conference where this was decided. This occurred at Holborn Hall.
This is a very important piece of history because it shows us some insight over how the rest of the world, and especially Great Britain, view the apartheid and how they opposed it strongly.
These methods used were meant to starve out apartheid companies and make them go back on their government system.
In any case, this is a very strong document that shows a lot of information from the time that these events took place, and also secondary source explaining what happened during the apartheid.
In this image over here, it is shown that the British government helped the anti-apartheid movement by making campaigns to show to the world that the actions in South Africa were similar to the ones in Germany during World War II.
With this, the British government wanted to make that people from around the world help the anti-apartheid movement because there was a similar mistreatment that happened during World War II in Germany. If they wanted to end evil occurring in South Africa, they should all unite and fight against the common evil.
This helped a lot the anti-apartheid movements because not only did they receive goods from all around the world, they also starved apartheid supporters.
We will now look at an article by VOA News called US Anti-Apartheid Movement Helped Bring Change to South Africa. It talks about how important the support from the US was to end apartheid in South Africa.
Americans were then determined to help stop apartheid in South Africa.
Ron Dellum, a member of the US House of Representatives, was the leader of this movement in the US. Dellum saw that South African members needed support and gave his. As the article says, Dellum introduced an anti-apartheid legislation in Congress banning trade and investment in South Africa. This would be really helpful because it would be a big hit against the South African government.
A big wave of support towards South Africa started to emerge from the American community. Students also protested on university campuses, calling on schools and corporations to get rid of their investments in South Africa.
What the US did also led to international support. The article quotes Tuo Kuni, Mandela's granddaughter, saying, My grandfather and others really appreciated that because they realized that without the support from the outside, they would not have necessarily been successful in dismantling apartheid.
That's true, Cristobal. Even Nelson Mandela said that the support of the outside world was extremely helpful. The anti-apartheid movement was a terrible movement that mainly consisted in racial segregation and white supremacy. This movement lasted until 1994 and affected most or all of the black people in South Africa. People in South Africa, tired of the abuse, started fighting back, but they wouldn't have end the apartheid movement without the help of Great Britain and create the anti-apartheid movement, and that gave them the world's support and supplies. Great Britain also helped the anti-apartheid movement by making other countries like USA help them. This is important for future generations because it has helped how South Africa is today and helped the world realize that the oppression of the minority is a brutal crime and therefore the world has turned against it.